ultimately, the bottom line is, when you visit with your hometown banker, ask them, how's your bank doing? Well, they say, deposits are up. And who deposits in a Montana bank? Montanans. Now these Montana bankers, I've customed for 30 years. But if you've been in business, you know how it works in Montana. You walk in and you got a box full of paperwork, and you've got some projections about what your income might be, and you've got some projections what your expenses might be, and boy, that banker looks it over and pulls his glasses down and then looks up at you and says, I don't know, this looks risky. Risky? I'm asking to borrow 30 cents and I've got $3 in your bank. Well, it's still a little tough. We got to make sure that these numbers are correct, and we've got to come out and check things over, and they're liable to come out and count the number of cattle and make sure that the serial numbers are correct on all of your tractors. They're going to make sure the ownership of all of your land is intact and that your mortgage isn't greater than what you've represented. That's the way Montana bankers work. But on Wall Street, folks walk in with one little piece of paper and they describe to them what it is they plan to do with the money, and the person who's loaning the money has no idea what they're investing in. They don't understand this vehicle, and so now that's how we've got ourselves in trouble with these big investment banks on the East Coast. I'm here to tell you that Montana bankers, while I've customed for 30 years, they are as solid as they've ever been, and that is a measure of Montana's economy. So, bottom line, more investment in education, making college tuition more affordable for every family in Montana, a larger budget surplus, cutting more taxes. Now, I don't know about the nonprofits, but I heard from a lot of small businesses across Montana, when we sent a $400 check to every homeowner, that those $400 checks ended up in the pockets of Main Street, and my guess is some of those checks ended up in the pockets of nonprofits, because that's what Montanans will do with their money. Now, this is a different philosophy than we've had in the past, and it's a different philosophy in people that are running for this office right now. We've already cut more taxes for more Montanans than any time in history, but the way we cut taxes was a little bit different. About 40% of our tax cuts went to homeowners and small businesses. About 4% of their proposal would go to homeowners. In fact, we just heard the other day, while we sent $400 to every homeowner, there is a competing plan that would give a $50 reduction in taxes on your home. Now, most of you got this figured out. During the course of the last 15 years, while we were giving more tax breaks to the railroads, more tax breaks to ConocoPhillips and ExxonMobil, property taxes went up on homeowners. While we were decreasing our investment in K-12 education during the last 15 years, local communities had to increase, because we're going to keep those schools open, and we're going to have quality education, and communities in Montana believe in the future, and that means investing in education. So your property taxes went up on your homes, every single one of you. We've reversed that trend. We now say, if you're going to invest in Montana, we will invest in you. If you give a tax break to ExxonMobil for their refinery in Billings, which is already one of the most profitable refineries that they own anywhere in the world, do you think they're going to add an extra pipe to that refinery in Billings? Are they going to add more jobs in that refinery in Billings? Or is that money going to go to corporate headquarters and be dispersed among their shareholders and possibly even their CEO? That's the way it works. If you invest in small businesses, if you put a $400 check on Main Street, they will invest in Main Street, and then that dollar will roll down Main Street a few more times. So, bottom line, Montana now has more money in our pockets. We have Montanans who are in a position to give money to nonprofits, and you have an administration for the first time put those nonprofits and that charitable tax system in our executive budget. It has never happened before, and I'm here to commit to you that it will happen in the future. A wealthier Montana means a more robust nonprofit association. Now, I've been active, as you know. We've had opportunities to speak to groups, Philanthropy Northwest, Charlotte Martin Foundation, and others, the Kellogg Foundation. I was active in helping to make whatever contributions they've made to Montana in matching funds. I've been very active, and I believe in the mission. I believe that there's only so much that government can and should do. There is another step, and that is for each and every one of us to stand up. Some of us contribute simply by writing checks at the end of the year. By the way, that time is coming up, right? How much of that money do you take in from about the 10th of December to the 1st of January, or the 5th of January. It's a large percentage, and it's because people recognize that it's the right thing to do, and it's the giving season, and they also know that there are some tax benefits in giving to nonprofits. We're going to keep that system intact, and we're going to make sure that those folks have money in their pocket. So again, I am a supporter of nonprofits. I'm a supporter of growing Montana's economy. That means energy, that means information technology, it means biotech, and it means being an ambassador for the state of Montana, whether I'm attracting a German company to build wind turbines, or a Spanish company to put up those wind turbines at the McCormick Farm, or whether I'm talking to GlaxoSmithKline, or whether I'm talking to a high-tech venture that is going to come to Great Falls or Butte. That's what a governor needs to do. This is the chief executive for the state of Montana. I understand business. I'm a small business person. I've been balancing a checkbook now for 30 years in business, and I can tell you this, that this administration believes in paying as you go. So in our last budget, I'm just going to break it out for you. We had a little extra money, and here's what we did with it. For the first time in 50 years, hasn't happened in a legislative session in 50 years, we said, if something is important enough to pay for, we'll pay for it right now. Now, the way it worked for the last 50 years, now I haven't been in the legislature, I just kind of learned how the system worked when I got there. If you're a legislator and you're in Great Falls, or you're in Sydney, or you're in Missoula, you're knocking door to door, and people say to you, you know, what we'd really like to have would be a bike path that runs through our town. Or we want to put a new roof on our College of Technology. Or perhaps we need another investment in our laboratory at our community college. Well, legislator says, that's a great idea. And they go down to Helena and they get there and they say, oh boy, I've got a bill that I'd like to propose, and I'd like $3.5 million for a new lab at Flathead Community College. Get down here and find out, we don't really have the money for that. In fact, by the time you figure out the money that's coming in and the money that is already committed, there isn't $3.5 million in the budget. So what the legislators do is they bond it. Now, simply stated, they all get together and they decide which ornaments they'd like to hang on the Christmas tree. And the Missoula delegation will bring their ideas, the Kalispell delegation will bring their ideas, and the Eastern Montana will bring their ideas, and Billings and Great Falls will have their ideas. And you put it all together in the big bonding bill. And you know what that means? How does that work? Bonding, what's that mean? Borrow the money. Now we have a constitutional requirement for a balanced budget, but this is sort of off budget. This says we want to get our project built now, and we want the people to pay for it during the next 30 years. You know what we did in our last budget? We said if it was important enough to pay for it, we'll pay cash on the barrelhead. And we did. Over $300 million of projects we paid with one-time money because we had the money. And then we sent back $260 million worth of tax relief to Montanans. And beyond that, you bet, we increased spending for K-12 by nearly 30%. We increased spending for higher education at the fastest rate in the history of Montana, and for the first time in 30 years, no tuition increases. And by the way, we've created a scholarship program so that 3,000 Montana students are now going to Montana colleges, and they are part of the Best and Brightest Scholarship Program, and funded it. And when we got all done, after all the tax cuts, after all the one-time spending, after bailing out the pension fund of $175 million, we still had $200 million in the bank. That is conservative fiscal management. Pay as you go. Don't force somebody else to pay for your priorities tomorrow, what you'd like to consume today. So again, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be your governor, and I'd like to ask for 4 more years, and I'd take some questions now. Thank you.
Governor Schweitzer, you spoke a little bit about the things about the Montana economy and the things that you have done in your tenure as governor to affect us as the nonprofit sector. Will you share a little bit with us about how we have affected your life?